At my sister's baby shower, she tossed me a trash bag and said, "You're not one of us. Clean up while real family celebrates." My dad raised his glass. I smiled, walked to the speaker table, and played the recording she thought I'd deleted. Before the cake was cut, the room had gone dead quiet. Quick one before we dive in. If you watch our videos regularly and you're not subscribed yet, you're actually in the majority. Most of our viewers aren't. But if you want to help change that, the button's right there. It keeps us in your feed and keeps us motivated to make more content. We appreciate every single one of you. Now let's get started. I smiled. My sister had just thrown a black trash bag across the table at me in front of 30 people at her baby shower and told me to clean up while real family celebrated. My father, at the head table, had his champagne glass halfway to his mouth. He didn't put it down. He took the sip. 30 people in the room. Pink streamers I'd taped to the ceiling. A cake I'd helped the bakery deliver. Speakers I'd wired and tested. A playlist I'd loaded. A room I'd built from bare walls in 2 hours. Alone, because that was my job. Not my role as a brother. My job. The way you'd call in a caterer or a DJ or a cleaning crew. Except I wasn't paid. I was family. Or I was supposed to be. And I smiled. Not because it was funny. Not because I was performing calm. Because she'd just done in public what she'd only ever done in private. And the phone in my pocket had been waiting 3 weeks for exactly this room. My friend Trey was the only person who knew about the recording. Not because I told him. Because I was at his place the night after the phone call, watching a game, and my face was doing something my mouth wasn't explaining. "What's wrong with you?" he asked. "My sister's cutting me out of the will." "She can do that?" "She's working on it, got a lawyer. She told me on the phone. She doesn't know I was recording." Trey set his beer down. "You have her saying this? On tape?" "Voice memo, 4 minutes." "And what are you going to do with it?" "I don't know yet." "You setting up her baby shower next weekend?" "Yeah." Trey looked at me for a long time. He didn't tell me what to do. He just said, "Make sure the speakers work." He was smiling when he said it. I wasn't. Not yet. But I need to go back, 3 weeks, to a phone call about party supplies that turned into something else entirely. Kelsey called on a Tuesday night. I was at my kitchen table eating leftover pasta, phone on the counter. She was calling about the shower setup. I tapped the voice memo app before answering because Kelsey gives instructions fast and I'd already forgotten half the details from the last call. Table count, chair arrangement, speaker placement. I needed a record. "Hey, so Saturday the 14th. Venue opens at noon, but I need you there by 10 to set everything up." "What's the setup?" "Tables first. There's 30 guests, so we need 6 round tables with 5 chairs each. Streamers are pink and white. Gift table by the entrance. Speaker and mic at the front for the speeches." "Got it." "And you're handling the audio. I need the Bluetooth speaker working, the mic tested, and my playlist loaded. I'll send you the playlist link. Make sure the sound fills the room. I'll test it when I get there." "Good. And Marcus, make sure everything works. I don't want any tech issues during the speeches." That should have been the end of the call. Setup list. Audio instructions. Done. But Kelsey didn't hang up. She shifted. I could hear it in her breathing. The logistics voice dropped away and the other voice showed up. The one I'd been hearing since I was old enough to understand that some doors in our house were open for her and closed for me. "By the way, I talked to Mr. Hadley this week." Mr. Hadley was a lawyer in town, estate law. "He said the will can be structured so the estate stays with biological family. House, savings, everything. There's precedent for it when there's an adopted child involved. He said if Dad signs the right documents, it's clean." I stopped chewing. The pasta sat in my mouth like cement. "I've been working on Dad about it for a few months. He's almost there. I told him it's about protecting the family legacy, keeping the house in the bloodline. He gets sentimental about that stuff." "What about Marcus?" I heard myself ask. My own name in the third person, like I was asking about someone else. "Marcus isn't blood, so legally it's straightforward. Hadley said adopted kids can contest, but if Dad signs while he's competent, it holds up. Don't worry about Marcus, he'll be fine. He's got his own thing going." She said it casually. The way you'd discuss a neighbor's yard. Not the way you'd discuss cutting your brother out of an inheritance. And hey, don't mention any of this to Dad directly. I'm handling it. He responds better when it comes from me. Sure. Also, Jordan and I are done. Like, done. But don't tell anyone at the shower. I told Mom and Dad he's busy with work. I'll figure out the story later. I just need Saturday to go smooth. Okay. Thanks, Marcus. You're a big help. She hung up. I sat at the table with cold pasta and a phone that had just recorded 4 minutes and 22 seconds of my sister dismantling my place in the family while asking me to set up her party. I didn't plan to record a confession. I planned to remember where to put the gift table. The voice memo captured both. I listened to the recording that night. Sitting at the same kitchen table. Cold pasta still on the plate. Kelsey's voice coming through my phone speaker, filling my apartment with sentences she never expected me to save. I listened again the next morning, standing in the bathroom, phone propped on the sink. Marcus isn't blood. Spit. Rinse. Don't worry about Marcus. Towel. The casual way she said clean when describing the legal strategy. Clean. Like I was a stain she was removing from fabric. She wasn't ranting. She wasn't venting. She was planning. Every sentence was a step in a process she'd been working on for months. The call wasn't a slip-up. It was a progress report delivered to the one person she thought would never do anything with it. I didn't know what I was going to do with the recording. I just knew I wasn't going to delete it. I was adopted when I was 4. Our mother, my adoptive mother, her name was Claire. She died when I was 9. She was the one who wanted me. She was the one who picked me up at the agency and held me in the backseat of the car and told me I was going to have a family now. After Claire died, the family I was given started shrinking. Not immediately, slowly. Like a room that gets colder, degree by degree, until you realize you've been sitting in the cold for years and nobody turned the heat back on. Doug never said he didn't want me. He just stopped acting like he did. At parent-teacher conferences, teachers would ask Doug about both of us. How's Marcus doing at home? Doug would give some version of fine. And you must be proud of Kelsey's grades. That's when Doug would lean forward. That's when the "my daughter" voice activated. She's been working so hard, we're really proud of her. We, proud, her. 3 words that never arranged themselves in a sentence about me. At family dinners, Kelsey was my daughter. I was Marcus. At family dinners, Kelsey sat at the table. I helped in the kitchen. At Christmas, Kelsey opened presents. I cleaned up the wrapping paper. None of it was declared, none of it was announced. It just settled, the way dust settles on surfaces nobody wipes. Kelsey learned from Doug. She learned that Marcus does the work and Kelsey does the celebrating, and that's the order of things. At 15, I mowed the lawn every Saturday. Kelsey got an allowance for existing. At 16, I helped Doug re-roof the garage. Kelsey got a car for her birthday. At 17, I asked Doug if I could take a summer art class at the community center. He said we couldn't afford it. That September, Kelsey started private violin lessons, $60 a week. Not because I gave up, because the math was clear. The family had a budget for Kelsey and a labor agreement with Marcus. Different systems, different children. By the time we were teenagers, the roles were fixed. The baby shower was the latest production, and like every production, it needed a crew. The crew was me. Saturday. I arrived at the venue at 10 a.m., a rented hall on Miller Road. Blank walls, concrete floor with a thin carpet, fluorescent lights that hummed. I unloaded the truck. 6 folding tables, 30 folding chairs, 4 bags of streamers, a box of place settings, pink tablecloths, a banner that said, "Welcome Baby Kelsey," in gold letters, 2 speakers, 1 wireless microphone, extension cords. Nobody helped. I carried the tables from my truck bed 2 at a time, 30 trips. My back was already sore by the time the chairs were in place, and I'd been doing this for every family event since I was 14. Holidays, birthdays, barbecues, Kelsey's graduation party, Kelsey's engagement party, and now Kelsey's baby shower. I was the advance team, the roadie, the guy who makes the room happen so the star can walk in and perform. Nobody was asked to help because everybody knew the setup was Marcus's job. The way everybody knew the lawn was Marcus's job. The way everybody knew the dishes were Marcus's job. This was a one-man job because I was the one man who always said yes. I set up the tables first. 6 circles, 5 chairs each, then the tablecloths, then the streamers. Pink and white taped to the ceiling with a stepladder I found in the back closet. Then the gift table by the entrance. Then the speaker podium at the front of the room. I paired the Bluetooth speaker to my phone. The pairing screen showed Marcus's iPhone connected. I loaded Kelsey's playlist and hit play. Soft piano filled the empty room. I walked to each corner, checking the volume, making sure the sound reached the back tables. It did. The system was good. The playlist filled the empty room. Soft piano, the kind of sound that makes a rented hall feel warm. I tested the microphone, tapped it twice. Check, check. My voice bounced off the walls and came back to me. The system worked. Everything she asked for was ready. While setting up the chairs, I saw the seating chart. Kelsey had emailed it to the venue coordinator. A printed sheet taped to the wall near the entrance. 30 names assigned to 6 tables. I read through everyone. Table 1. Doug, Kelsey, Aunt Barb, Uncle Jim, and Kelsey's friend Nicole. Tables 2 through 6. Friends, cousins, co-workers, neighbors. My name wasn't on any table, not reassigned, not crossed out, not present. I read the chart twice. Not a mistake, not an oversight. I wasn't on it because I wasn't expected to sit. I took out my phone, opened the voice memo. Not to listen, just to make sure it was still there. 4:22. Still there. I put the phone back and finished setting up the chairs. There was no 31st chair because there was no 31st guest. I was in the room to work, not to sit. I folded the stepladder, put it back in the closet, checked the time. 11:45. Guests would arrive at noon. The venue coordinator, a woman named Pam, came in around 11:30 to check on the setup. Looking good. You do this professionally? No, just for family. Well, it looks professional. The streamer work is really clean. Your sister must appreciate having someone who can do all this. She appreciates the setup. Pam looked at me. Something in my tone landed wrong. She nodded slowly and went back to her office. I sat in the back corner, near the door, at a small square table I'd set up for the extra supplies. Napkins, extra cups, a roll of tape. This wasn't a guest table. It was a utility station. But it was where I'd be sitting for the next 3 hours. Earlier that week, Kelsey had texted me a draft of the speech she planned to give at the shower. Just making sure the mic works for something this long. I read it on my phone while sitting at the utility table. Becoming a mother is teaching me what family really means. It means showing up for each other. It means being there in the hard moments. It means knowing that no matter what, the people around this table are the ones who matter most. The people around this table. The tables I set up, that I wasn't assigned to sit at. I read the speech twice. Then I opened the voice memo and played the recording from the beginning. I held the phone in one hand with the speech text still visible on the screen. Kelsey's public voice. Understanding what family really means. Kelsey's private voice. Marcus isn't blood. Same woman. Same week. 2 documents that couldn't exist in the same room. Until Saturday. I read the speech a second time. Then I opened the voice memo. 4:22. Kelsey's public speech and Kelsey's private voice sitting on the same phone. I closed both and put the phone back in my pocket. But something had shifted. Not a plan. Not yet. Just the awareness that both documents existed and that one of them was going to be heard today through speakers I controlled. Guests started arriving at noon. Women in nice dresses, men in button-downs. Gift bags and wrapped boxes piled up on the table by the door. The table I built. The gifts I'd never be asked to bring because I was asked to bring extension cords instead. Kelsey arrived at 12:15. Hair done, makeup done, a dress that fit around her belly like it was tailored for the occasion. She walked in and the room shifted toward her the way rooms always shifted toward Kelsey. She hugged. She laughed. She touched her belly when people asked about the baby. A guest I recognized, Kelsey's coworker, Hannah, walked past the utility table on her way to the bathroom. She noticed me sitting there. "Hey, Marcus. Are you sitting back here?" "Yeah, handling the tech stuff." "Oh." She looked at the supply table, the napkins, the tape, the extra cups. "Do you want me to ask Kelsey if there's room at one of the other tables?" "I'm fine." She hovered for a second, like she wanted to say something else, then walked to the bathroom. When she came back, she went to table 4 without looking at me again. She'd done the math. Offering me a seat meant confronting Kelsey, and nobody confronts Kelsey at her own baby shower. Doug arrived with her. Gray blazer. Champagne in a gift bag he'd probably asked his assistant to wrap. He shook hands. Clapped shoulders. The patriarch entrance. I heard Doug talking to Uncle Jim near the entrance. "Kelsey's been incredible with the planning. She's got such an eye for this stuff." Kelsey planned the color scheme and the guest list. I planned the layout, the sound, the streamers, the chairs, the tables, the gift station, and the lighting angle on the cake. But the room was Kelsey's accomplishment, the way the lawn was always Doug's lawn, even though my hands were the ones that pushed the mower every Saturday. He didn't look at the streamers I'd taped to the ceiling. Didn't check the speakers I'd wired. Didn't notice the seating chart or the fact that one name was missing from it. He walked past my utility table without slowing down. During the socializing, Doug's golf buddy Glenn stopped near the supply table to grab a napkin. He looked at me, then at the table, then at me again. "You're not sitting with the group?" "I'm handling the setup." "The whole thing?" He looked around the room. Tables, streamers, speakers. "By yourself?" "Yeah." He nodded slowly. Took his napkin, walked back to table 2 without saying anything else. But I saw him look at Kelsey on his way back, then at the room, then at his plate. Glenn noticed. He just didn't do anything with it. Kelsey walked past my table later to check the speaker placement. She stopped, looked at the setup, the tables, the streamers, the gift station. "The streamers are uneven on the left side. I'll fix them. And the mic needs to be closer to the podium. I don't want to stretch to reach it during my speech. I'll move it." "Good." She turned to walk away, then stopped. "Oh, and there's going to be wrapping paper everywhere during gifts. I'll need someone to keep the floor clear." "You want me to sweep during the party?" "Not sweep. Just manage the mess, keep it nice." She walked away. That was the extent of our interaction. Setup corrections and a cleanup assignment. Not a "thanks for coming early." Not a "the room looks great." Instructions from a project manager to a contractor she didn't tip. At one point during the early socializing, I overheard Kelsey talking to her friend Nicole near the gift table. "Where's Marcus sitting?" Nicole asked, scanning the room. "He's not sitting. He's handling the setup and cleanup. You know Marcus." "Shouldn't he have a seat?" Kelsey laughed. Light. Dismissive. "Nicole, it's fine. He doesn't mind. He likes being useful." She likes being useful. Like I was a power tool she kept in the garage. Good for projects. Not for dinner. Kelsey didn't acknowledge me again after that. Not a wave. Not a nod. Not a "thanks for setting up." I'd been in the room for 2.5 hours, and the person who sent me there hadn't registered my existence. At 12:30, Kelsey took the microphone. I watched from the back. The system I'd tested 3 hours ago carried her voice perfectly. "Thank you all for being here. This is the most special day." She paused, touched her belly. "Becoming a mother is teaching me what family really means. The speech, word for word. Showing up for each other. Being there in the hard moments. The people around this table." I sat at the supply table with napkins and tape, absent from every table she mentioned, while the phone in my pocket held a recording of her discussing how to cut me out of the family she was celebrating. Or the room clapped. Some women wiped their eyes. A friend squeezed Kelsey's hand. Doug raised his glass from table 1. "To Kelsey," he said. "To family." "To family," the room echoed. I sat at the utility table while 30 glasses went up. The playlist resumed through the speakers. My connection. My phone still paired. It happened during the gift opening. 1:15 p.m. The room was relaxed. Champagne had been flowing for 45 minutes. Wrapping paper was accumulating on the floor around Kelsey's chair. Someone had spilled a drink near table 3. Kelsey looked around the room. Her eyes found me at the utility table. She reached under her chair, pulled out a black trash bag, and tossed it across the room. It landed on my table with a soft thud, knocking over a stack of napkins. "Marcus, deal with this. You're not a guest." You never were. Clean up while we celebrate." She said it at conversation volume, not screaming, not whispering. The volume of a woman giving instructions to staff in front of guests. The volume that carries to every table in a rented hall. The room went quiet for about 2 seconds. Not the dramatic silence of a movie. The uncomfortable silence of 30 people deciding simultaneously to look somewhere else. A woman at table 4 studied her drink. A man at table 2 checked his phone. Aunt Barb opened her mouth like she might say something, then closed it. The silence wasn't shock. It was social cowardice. People heard it. People understood it. Nobody wanted to be the one to respond. Doug was at table 1. His champagne glass was already in his hand from the toast he'd given 10 minutes earlier. When Kelsey said it, he was mid-lift. Not toasting the sentence, but not putting the glass down either. He heard it. His eyes went to me for half a second, then back to Kelsey. Then the glass went to his lips and he drank. He didn't stop the sip, didn't set the glass down, didn't say, "Kelsey, that's enough." He just drank through it the way you drink through something you've decided isn't your problem. And that was worse than a toast. A toast would have been obvious. This was quiet permission. The trash bag sat on the table between the napkins and the tape. A black plastic bag on a pink tablecloth. The contrast was almost funny. Almost. 2 tables over, Aunt Barb set her fork down slowly. At table 4, a woman I didn't recognize leaned toward her friend and whispered something behind her hand. At table 2, a man named Glenn, one of Doug's golf buddies, he stared at his plate like it had developed a crack. Nobody said, "That's not okay." Nobody stood up. Nobody called Kelsey out. 30 people processed the sentence, measured the social cost of responding, and decided their champagne was more interesting than my dignity. The trash bag sat between the napkins and the tape. Kelsey had already turned back to her gifts. The room had found its champagne glasses suddenly fascinating. My hand moved toward the trash bag. Muscle memory. 23 years of picking up what Kelsey threw and cleaning what Kelsey dirtied. My feet took 3 steps toward the nearest trash can. Automatic. The old pattern running its program one more time. I stopped on the 3rd step. I looked at the speaker table at the front of the room. The speakers I'd set up. The Bluetooth still connected to my phone. The microphone I'd tested that morning. I smiled. I picked up the trash bag. Kelsey was already looking away. Back to her gifts. Back to the performance. She expected me to do what I always did. Take the assignment and disappear. 23 years of data supported that expectation. I turned around, walked toward the front of the room, not toward the trash can by the door, toward the speaker table, past table 6, past table 5, past the gift pile, past the 3-tier cake with baby Kelsey in pink frosting that nobody had cut yet. Kelsey watched me walk. A few heads turned. The man with the trash bag was going the wrong direction. Trash cans were by the door. The speaker table was at the front. The confusion was visible on 3 or 4 faces. Why is he going that way? Aunt Barb leaned toward Doug. What's he doing? Doug didn't answer. Maybe because he didn't know. Maybe because he did. Kelsey's voice went sharp. What are you doing? The trash cans are by the door. I didn't answer. I set the trash bag on the floor next to the speaker table. Took my phone out of my pocket. Opened the Bluetooth settings. The speaker was still paired. I disconnected Kelsey's playlist. The soft piano music stopped. The piano stopped. 30 people looked up. The man who was supposed to be cleaning was standing at the speaker table with a phone in his hand. I opened the voice memo app. Scrolled to the recording. 4:22. 3 weeks old. Kelsey's voice. Her private voice. The one the room had never heard. She asked me to handle the speakers, I said. Not loud. Not to anyone in particular. So I'm handling the speakers. I pressed play. The first thing the room heard was Kelsey's voice giving setup instructions. Tables, chairs, streamers, normal shower planning. A few people relaxed, thinking this was some kind of joke or a behind-the-scenes compilation. Then the voice shifted. By the way, I talked to Mr. Hadley this week. A woman at table 4 set her champagne glass down, the way you set something fragile on a hard surface, carefully. Like the glass might break if she wasn't paying attention. The room was still now. Not confused, still. Listening, still. Because the voice coming through the speakers was Kelsey's, but the tone was different from the one that had just given a speech about what family means. He said the will can be structured so the estate stays with biological family. House, savings, everything. I watched Doug's face. He was at table 1, 6 feet from the speaker. His glass was on the table. His hand was still near it but not holding it anymore. His jaw shifted. A small movement. The kind that means the brain just received information the body doesn't know how to process. Kelsey's recorded voice continued. I've been working on Dad about it for a few months. He's almost there. Doug's right hand, the one that had held the champagne glass, was flat on the table now. His fingers spread slightly. The way you press your hand against a surface when the floor feels like it's moving. He blinked once. Hard. The kind of blink that's trying to reset what the eyes are hearing. Marcus isn't blood, so legally it's straightforward. The room. The 30 people who had smiled through Kelsey's speech about family were now hearing Kelsey describe her adopted brother as a legal obstacle to an inheritance scheme. A man at table 2, one of Doug's friends, put his napkin on the table and pushed his chair back slightly. Not leaving. Adjusting. Creating distance from the speaker the way you'd lean away from something hot. At table 1, Aunt Barb's hand went to her mouth. Not dramatic. Reflexive. The hand that covers a mouth when the mouth doesn't know what to say. Don't worry about Marcus. He'll be fine. He's got his own thing going. At table 5, a man whispered to his wife. She shook her head. At table 6, a woman got up quietly, picked up her purse, and moved toward the bathroom. Not because she needed the bathroom, because she needed to not be in the room for the next 30 seconds. Then the recording shifted to Jordan. Jordan and I are done. Like, done. But don't tell anyone at the shower. I told Mom and Dad he's busy with work. A woman at table 3, one of Kelsey's friends, turned to the woman next to her. She told me he was working overtime. The recording played for another 30 seconds. The remaining content was logistics again. Speaker placement, chair count. But the room wasn't listening to logistics anymore. The room was sitting in the wreckage of the middle section. Kelsey stood up from her chair. Turn it off. That was a private conversation. You had no right to play that. I didn't move. The recording had already ended. The speakers were silent. The room was not. That was a private conversation, Marcus. You recorded me without my permission. That's not legal. You called me, Kelsey. Son, I was taking notes for your setup list. You kept talking. You should have stopped recording. You should have stopped talking. The line landed. Not because it was clever, because it was true. Kelsey had called the person she trusted least with information she'd trust to nobody, because she didn't see Marcus as somebody. She saw me as a service provider who would write down the chair count and forget the rest. That was her miscalculation. Not that I recorded her, that she thought I wasn't listening. Kelsey scanned the room for an ally. Every face she landed on looked somewhere else. Something had shifted between what family really means and Marcus isn't blood. She could feel it. I could see her feeling it. He's twisting things, she said, turning to the guests. Her voice was higher now, faster. I was venting. Everyone vents about family. This isn't what it sounds like. Kelsey turned to Doug. Dad, say something. Tell them this is ridiculous. Doug looked at his daughter. The daughter who'd been working him for months. The daughter who'd talked to a lawyer about his estate without telling him. The daughter who'd just been asking him to defend her against the truth she told about him. I think, Doug said slowly, we should all go home. That was it. Not a defense, not an accusation, a retreat. The patriarch who raised his glass to family couldn't raise his voice for his daughter because his daughter had been caught planning his obsolescence. A woman at table 5 shook her head slowly. Not at me, at Kelsey. A small movement, barely visible, but Kelsey saw it. The head shake of a person who just heard someone try to explain away their own voice. Nobody responded verbally. The room's silence wasn't politeness. It was the sound of 30 people replaying what they'd just heard against the speech Kelsey gave 20 minutes ago. What family really means versus Marcus isn't blood. The calculation was happening in real time on every face. Doug stood up. Slowly. The glass was on the table. Not in his hand. Not raised. All right, that's enough. This is Kelsey's day. Let's move past this. Nobody moved. A woman at table 6 picked up her purse. She was leaving, quietly, without announcement. Just done with the room. Uncle Jim leaned forward. Move past it? Doug, she just said she's been working a lawyer to cut your adopted son out of the will. That's not something you move past, that's something you answer. Doug looked at Jim, then at Kelsey, then at the table, and he sat back down without answering. The man who spent his life moving past things had finally reached something too heavy to step over. Aunt Barb, at table 1, looked at Doug. Doug, did you know about this? The will? The lawyer? Doug didn't answer. His jaw shifted again. He sat back down. The man who raised his glass to Kelsey's trash bag declaration was now sitting at a table processing the fact that his daughter had been working him for months to restructure his estate while performing love at a baby shower he paid for. A woman, at table 3, Kelsey's friend Megan, spoke. Not loudly, almost to herself. So that's why Jordan isn't here. She told me he was working. The woman next to her. She told me he was out of town. Uncle Jim, at table 1, looked at Doug. You knew about the lawyer, Doug? The will stuff? Doug shook his head. Barely. At the smallest number. The room saw it. The father didn't know his daughter was working him. The man who raised his glass to family just learned that his daughter's version of family was a legal strategy to control his assets. Kelsey looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but her jaw was set. Are you happy now? You just ruined my baby shower. She was searching my face for the Marcus, who would have apologized and picked up the trash and fixed the situation. That Marcus stopped existing 3 steps from the trash can. You ruined my shower, she said again, quieter now. You kept talking, Kelsey. I just kept the recording. Nicole, the friend who'd asked where I was sitting, stood up from table 4. She didn't say anything. She picked up her purse, walked to the gift table, picked up the gift bag she'd brought, and walked out. I'm the first person to leave. Not the last, but the first. And the sound of her heels on the floor was louder than anything the recording had played. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The recording already answered everything. Anything I added would be quieter than what she'd already said herself. Kelsey's face went through 3 stages. First, anger, directed at me. Second, calculation, looking for an exit. Third, the expression of a person who realizes the room they curated has turned into the room that sees them. The room was doing what rooms do after a detonation. Sorting, processing, deciding who to look at and who to look away from. 2 women at table 5 were gathering their things. A man at table 2 was on his phone, texting someone, probably his wife. Probably the words, "You won't believe what just happened." At table 1, Doug sat motionless. Kelsey was standing, arms around her belly, looking at the door like she could will me out of the room before I chose to leave. I put the phone in my pocket, picked up the trash bag from the floor next to the speaker table, walked toward the door. Not fast, not slow, the same speed I'd walked in 7 hours ago carrying speakers and streamers. I stopped at the gift table by the entrance. 30 wrapped boxes and gift bags from guests who were invited to celebrate. I set the trash bag on top of the pile. A black plastic bag sitting on pink tissue paper and ribbon. The thing Kelsey threw at me, resting on the things the room brought for her. I walked out. The door closed behind me. The parking lot was bright. Afternoon sun. My truck was parked in the same spot I'd pulled into at 10 a.m. 7 hours ago. On 2 hours of setup, 3 hours of shower, 20 minutes of aftermath. The math of the day was simple. 7 hours of my time, 0 minutes of being treated like family. I got in the truck, sat for a second. My hands were steady. My breathing was normal. The shaking I expected didn't come. What came instead was something lighter. Not happiness, not satisfaction. Relief. The relief of a man who just stopped carrying something heavy. The trash bag. The setup. The smile. The 23 years of service to a family that classified him as labor. All of it, set down. Not thrown. Not smashed. Set down gently on a gift table and walked away from. The venue was behind me. Inside, 30 people were sitting in a room with an uncut cake, a silent speaker system, a trash bag on the gift table, and a woman whose two voices had just become one. My phone buzzed. A text from Trey. "How'd the speakers work?" I typed back, "Perfectly." 3 dots. Then, "You okay?" "Yeah," I typed. "I'm okay." And I was. Not happy, not victorious, just okay. The way you feel after you finally set something down that you've been carrying too long. I started the engine. I didn't look back at the building, didn't check my phone, didn't wait to see who came out first or what they said. The sun was high and the road was clear. The door I walked through was the last door I'd walk through for them. The smile was gone. What was left was the quiet of a man who stopped being the crew and walked out before the show was over. Inside, the cake sat on its table. 3 tiers. Pink frosting. Baby Kelsey in white icing. Never cut. The knife sat next to it on a napkin. A pink ribbon tied around the handle for a photo that never happened. 30 people left a room with an uncut cake and a truth that couldn't be unheard. And the woman who planned the party was the last one standing in a room she asked her brother to build. The performance ran until the intermission, and nobody came back for Act 2.